Between all the major releases I've been playing and covering in videos and stuff throughout the internet, I've been slowly kind of chipping away through the Metroid Prime Remaster, and it's really good. Now, I went into it really looking forward to it because I loved the original game when it released, but I never really replayed it. Like, I played it back in the day when it released and never touched it again. And I had been sitting and waiting for rumors of like a Metroid Prime re-release forever. And at least now we finally got the first game. And the first game is the only one I really had a lot of experience with. And I absolutely loved it back then. So jumping in has been awesome. And I gotta say, this remaster is really good. In parts, a lot of it is like really redone. At this point, it's like one of the better looking Switch games. It's absolutely gorgeous. And there's just something special about this game, man. I think most people should check it out. I think if you were an OG fan, yeah, it's a good reason to go back if you're like me. But if you've never played it, I think this is a great place to jump in. If all you know of Samus is just like Super Smash Brothers, you're gonna feel right at home with this, and it's gonna also just do a really good job kind of cluing you in as to what the rest of the deal is. And what the rest of the deal is with Metroid is that it is just a really great sci-fi game, and there's really nothing else like it. From like the tone, the vibe, the look of the characters, the creatures, the music, and Metroid Prime really doubles down on that. And I think it's really incredible because it was back in the day when first-person shooters on consoles were still kind of not always very good. Like there were the few and far betweens, and Metroid managed to crush it. Not only that, but they took a formula that was a two-dimensional game from the previous classic Metroid games and applied it to a first-person game, and won over a lot of skeptics. It was a weird choice to go first person for a lot of people, but I think what Metroid Prime really did was do a good job of winning those skeptical people over and also introducing new people to Metroidvania concepts or Metroid concepts here. And also just the world of Metroid and Samus and the look of it and Ridley and the Metroids and all this cool shit. And it's right from the beginning. You've probably heard other people like wax nostalgic about the intro and how incredible the intro is, and when you first land on the planet and it's raining and it's dreary and the music is incredible and you feel like a space explorer alone on this hostile planet. Like you get that like real Buzz Lightyear vibe. And from there, you just kind of adventure through all these varied worlds. That's kind of like a Rubik's Cube puzzle piece that you kind of have to decipher. You have to go out and kind of just figure things out, find your abilities, figure out where they work, go back, use those abilities on different places, and slowly progress and really uncover a pretty interesting world that a lot of it is just hidden behind text and stuff you read, like ancient carvings on walls and stuff. But it's a pretty complex story of a planet and the Chozo race and like what they were doing on this planet to contain this threat is really, really interesting. And you kind of feel like you're just exploring the aftermath and kind of cleaning up the mess in some ways. And I think both back in the day and even now, like it's just like such a visually striking thing. Everything about this game, from the environment design to the weather, to the atmospheric effects, to the details of all the creatures and things you fight, to the actual look of Samus, who, despite it being a first-person game, you get to see a lot of. Her character model is a really impressive one, and you're jumping into the morph ball, you're saving, like you're constantly seeing Samus, and you're being reminded that you're Samus, also with the HUD, which the HUD is a lot, takes up a lot of the screen. It very much is an immersive thing, but it really works because you're using all of your tools. You're swapping between all different tools for your abilities with your arm cannon, and then you're switching visor modes for different viewpoints. You're basically like Buzz Lightyear mixed with the Predator, and it's perfect. And you're really reminded that you're Samus just from the effects. This game has just an incredible, like, kind of eerie thing to it where sometimes quick reflections or explosions close to you means that you will actually see Samus's face reflected on the visor in front of you. And it's little touches like that, the breath, the water droplets on the visor that really work. It sounds so like you take it for granted now. It's not like a big deal, but back then that was like incredible. It was just like the most amazing shit. And even now, I'll say with the remaster, like it's still really cool. And there's not a lot of games that really ever ran with that type of concept. And it's cool to see here. You're kind of constantly reminded that you are Samus, this space explorer. And I don't know, it's unique. And then there's the music. The music is just so memorable. It's been some of the little things here and there have actually been stuck in my head since it originally released, so it's been wild to really revisit that. And it's just like a good, well-playing shooter. Like, you're blasting things, you're dodging, you're using your rockets, you're using your different guns for different situations. You're morph balling out of there. Like, there's all this situational stuff where all of your tools are gonna come in play at some point. And like the lock-on, the way they redid it now, I really like it. It's very generous. It's very forgiving. It still kind of can feel like it can be a GameCube game, but the way you can aim now with 2 analog sticks, just like a regular old straightforward thing with holding left trigger to kind of lock on ADS. It works really, really well, and I'm really glad they put the work in to upgrade the playability here, because it was originally an old first-person shooter, so it didn't control traditionally as it does now, and then it was a Wii thing, so like now it really just is a regular old dual-stick controller shooter, but it still managed to feel a little bit distinctly GameCube, if that makes sense. Like, they didn't make this game like Halo or Rainbow Six, and it never was even then. This is like an accessible shooter that's pretty easy to pick up and grasp for people who had a GameCube that maybe didn't play a lot of first-person shooters on console. But despite that accessibility, as the game goes on and as the actual threats are imposing and faster, it takes a little while to get to that actual real threat and challenge, but it maintains a challenge, and it's a good one. The bosses are great. Some of the cinematic ways they're introduced to the way the camera angle will sometimes shift when you do a certain action to defeat or damage a boss, to the space pirates, to the Chozo ghosts, like, it can get pretty awesome. By today's standards, like, it's a pretty lonely game. Some might even say it's a little dull because it's very quiet and contemplative. You're just running through rooms, shooting some monsters, moving on to the next thing, just slowly trying to figure out this world and piece all these different maps together, essentially. But it's almost like a meditative first-person shooter, and I like it for that. I'm not trying to be like pretentious or like very like critic-like, but there is something about it that's like a chill vibe, you know? It's just a fun, straight-up video game that also manages to do and say a lot without actually doing or saying a lot. Does that make sense? Just taking in the world, learning about the Chozos, Samus's adventure, the way the game kind of embraces the nature in front of you, science, the wonders of space and aliens and creatures. Like, there's something still so distinct about it today. And for the fact that also it was, you know, the traditional Metroid games were Japanese developed, for Retro to take this game and make it, they were like an Austin-based studio, to make this game and translate it for new audiences while still maintaining that mysterious sci-fi feel that's unique to Metroid is so, so cool. And I'm happy that the game is now kind of cleaned up and preserved and playable for today. I bought the physical edition, so I had to sit and wait for a while. I really wanted to play it right away, but I wanted that physical copy, and it showed up, and I binged the hell out of it, and I love it. And even though, like, they did overhaul a lot, like if you look at side-by-sides, like if you look at Digital Foundry comparisons or screenshots or something like that, they did change up a lot. Environments look better, character models look stronger, but lighting is a little different here and there. But thankfully, most of the color palette, the vibe, all that stuff is perfectly preserved. I was a little worried, so like I'm in that in-between, I guess, where like it's been long enough since I've played the original that I can't one-to-one compare every single area, but I think they did a really good job with it. It just looks and feels clean. I don't really have a lot of complaints, like it's just older age stuff, like, you know, switching between certain things can be a little cumbersome, but like, I don't know. I don't really have a lot of issues. The artifact hunting, okay. Ultimately, I don't know. The game plays like a dream. It's a cool experience, and if you can't tell, I'm literally just gushing about it. I think you should check it out. I think if you just go in with an open mind and know that it's relatively simple, you know, just don't expect like this crazy balls out first person shooter, you're gonna have a great time. It's different, you know, it's a change of pace. And I've really been enjoying that in between playing all the major releases. I could gush about this one all day. And if you're new here, that's pretty much what I do on this channel. I just talk about stuff I love, and Metroid Prime is definitely one of them. And especially considering I never really had a lot of experience with the other games in this trilogy, I'm really excited to see if they keep bringing these games to Nintendo Switch, because I'm gonna keep checking them out. Yes, I have some blind spots. I haven't played every game, but I definitely want to know what your experience is with Metroid Prime, the whole series, where you played it. Did you play the DS one? I did. Let's talk anything Metroid Prime down in the comments, new or old. I definitely want to hear from you. I shared like my first memory with it. Let me know yours, your first experience with it, what it was like. Were you skeptical? Or were you not even born? Let's talk about this stuff. But if you get what I'm trying to do here, I'm just having fun. Clicking the like button helps me. Thank you. But that's it. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.